guess what I'd like to understand or tease out, if we could, is what are the linkages and perhaps more importantly, the differences between the disclosures regulation and the taxonomy regulation in terms of the requirements placed upon market participants?
Sure, and you know, you're not alone in your confusion, Shane. And I think the confusion is understandable because even though we talk about this in terms of it being an EU Sustainable Finance Action Plan, and you know, the language we use around it suggests a high degree of coordination and thoughtfulness about the intersection and interaction of the various pieces of legislation. They were on different legislative tracks. Different pieces of legislation may have been hijacked through the legislative process because, you know, you do have Commission, Council and European Parliament involved in the legislative process. And so things that might have started out meaning one thing or intending to achieve one thing may have been, as I say, sort of hijacked along the way and may now be serving a slightly different purpose. They didn't all come into being at the same time, even though they sort of came together, and we've quite a lot of the legislation now available to us in fairly finalised form. And so they just really didn't come together as a coordinated set of legislation in the way you might have hoped and the way you might have expected. And that's resulted, I think, in some inconsistencies between them, in some different but similar concepts being used both in the taxonomy regulation and in the disclosures regulation. And then perhaps even most unhelpfully of all, the disclosures regulation, which, as you say, you'd kind of think would be the meat of what you have to do. The taxonomy might operate as a glossary. It was finalised before the taxonomy, so it doesn't really cross-refer to the taxonomy in any helpful or useful way. And then the taxonomy regulation was ultimately used to introduce additional disclosures requirements, sort of substantive disclosures requirements that really possibly should have been in the disclosures regulation. So it's not an easy thing to understand the intersection between the two. And there are also, as I say, some inconsistencies then that come out of all of that. So don't beat yourself up that you're a bit confused.